We just watched the Once Upon a Time episode Mother, and we're about to share our initial reactions with you. But make sure that you go over to oncepodcast.com to subscribe to our regular audio podcast where we get into a lot more depth and include your feedback in that. That's at oncepodcast.com. You're listening to Once, episode 197, Mother, Initial Reactions. Welcome back to another episode of Once, the unofficial podcast for ABC's TV show Once Upon a Time. I'm Daniel J. Lewis.
I'm Jeremy Laughlin.
We just finished watching this episode, Mother, which by the name of the episode, I would have thought this would have been great for on Mother's Day because it was all about mothers, although one bad mother, one kind of trying to be good mother. Cora!
It's been too long.
Yes, I did a bad thing the other day. I was in the chat room in the forums over at oncepodcast.com, and that's where we do allow discussion about spoilers over there. And I just went there to post an announcement about our Once Upon a Time finale party in Cincinnati. Go check it out, oncepodcast.com/party. And in the chat room, I saw someone say something about Cora coming back. I just thought, nah, it must have just been they're hoping or guessing or whatever, fan fictioning, something like that. I didn't actually expect to see her again.
Oh.
But that was awesome.
I thought you were going to say that you went and looked at spoilers.
No, I do not.
Because that would have been bad.
Yeah, I wouldn't have hurt you like that. How could I hurt you? You're my only friend. But the whole Cora thing really messes up a lot of stuff. Like timeline-wise, yeah, we can place it on the timeline, but if she found a rabbit and that's how she got out of Wonderland, then why was she so adamant about asking Jefferson how he got to Wonderland and how she could get out? It doesn't fit anymore with that. So I think they're not necessarily breaking canon completely, but they are breaking certain rules, like it seemed that they had set up for a little while.
Yeah, because it doesn't seem like it would have been that difficult for Cora to just come back, and I don't know why she wouldn't. I mean, if she could do it that way, why would she go back to Wonderland? I mean, I guess because she had power?
Because her work here is done. I don't know. She likes to be the one in the background, plotting, scheming, waiting for Hook to come and try and steal her heart.
Yeah, I guess I don't know.
Like all the ladies out there.
I don't know if it's worse for there to be a plot hole like, hey, why didn't Cora get the white rabbit to take her back? Or, no, actually she did, you just didn't know it. It always seemed like she'd been gone the whole time, but in reality, she came back to taunt her daughter again.
So I think the whole point of this thing in the background, or the flashbacks with Cora, was primarily to show us two things. One is to remind us of Regina's relationship with her mother, and also to show us that, surprise, Regina apparently took a potion that means she can never have a child.
Well, yeah. Which, okay. So did Snow.
Yeah.
So, I mean, these things are not necessarily permanent. And, okay, so it got Regina to the point, it was actually a pretty pivotal moment for her. I thought the way that it presented on screen was a bit strange. It didn't carry the weight of the moment. Regina realized in that moment, with Selena taunting her, that Operation Mongoose was not needed. And she abandoned it all in that one moment. And it didn't seem to, I mean, her words communicated it, but I don't think that it had quite the, I don't know. There was something that I didn't feel in her realization.
it does say a lot when you have the power to do something and choose not to.
Yeah. Although, I mean, she could have maybe said, the only thing I want is to be able to have a baby. Except, I guess she said she already has Henry, so who cares?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. It was a big moment for her. And then I thought Zelina was still going to manage to do something, but they underestimate the author.
Yeah, I figured, well, if Regina doesn't have the author do something, he's probably going to do something. I thought maybe he would change their stories because of his thinking of it'll make for a better story if I write it this way. But instead, he went to Rumple, and now we have a new storybook, Heroes and Villains. So I think this could be potentially a setup for season 5. We're getting us there, where all the seasons up until now have been about the storybook Once Upon a Time. And now the new storybook is Heroes and Villains that starts off with the words Once Upon a Time. That was really cool to see, which could have been that scene right there. That is, could have been a season finale scene. But we still have 2 more episodes. Well, 1 episode, a 2-hour event, depending on how you want to look at it. Basically, we've got 2 more hours, but we have the finale coming up. And please join us for the finale at our party in Cincinnati, oncepodcast.com/party. We've already got several people registered to show up there. We made a little video showing you the space and promoting it. Go check it out, oncepodcast.com/party. Come be part of the event. That will be awesome, especially with you there.
So awesome.
oncepodcast.com/party. So the next episodes I'm going to assume will be about the author changing these events and Zelina and this other stuff. Maleficent. Okay, Maleficent and Lily now reunited.
Yeah. The dragon lost her claws.
Yeah. So do you think this is suddenly Lily deciding, no, I'll not seek revenge?
No, I don't. I think Maleficent was I don't know. It seems like she would have a little more residual anger.
Mhm.
It was a little too much of a 180. I mean, they're a little famous for their fast 180s on certain characters sometimes, but yeah, I don't know. I would have expected to hear more, even if she's asking the Charmings for their help, which I can believe if she's desperate. She was just so good. Like, there was no bitterness, no residual resentment or anger from someone who just said she would not forgive them.
Yeah.
There was no real catalyst, arguably, for her to make such a turnaround so fast.
Except for seeing her daughter. And
Yeah.
she underestimated her feelings of that moment.
And she did kind of explain that, but okay, that's fine. Yeah, but she was sort of back to the Maleficent that we saw in the cave when the egg was taken, which is, I don't know, maybe a little too helpless for who she seems to be. But I guess she kind of just goes back and forth on that. She's an interesting character for sure.
Yeah, and I think that we'll maybe see mother and daughter dragon team up and terrorize the town or something.
I guess Maleficent does have these moments that she's needed Regina to get her fire back, literally, and things like that. So I guess it's not totally unbelievable within the context of her character.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's fine, but the whole reunion went a little differently than I might have imagined. Up to this point.
Speaking of getting the fire back, let me thank some people who give us our fire for the podcast. David Newland, Steve Johnson, Lisa Slack, Tracy Anderson, Daniel Clark, and Tappenbird. Thank you very much for your kind contributions through our website and on Patreon. We really appreciate it. We could not do this podcast without you. Coming up very soon, we will be transitioning the systems we use for our donations, and we'll certainly email those who are signed up with one thing or another. But we would love to have your support, have you part of this, because we can't do this without you. We would be fireless without your help. So we really appreciate every little bit that you can contribute. Check out oncepodcast.com/sponsor to see how you can support Once Podcast. And again, thank you to our supporters for this episode: David, Steve, Lisa, Tracy, Daniel, Tappenbird, and our 15 backers on Patreon. Thank you. So Lily's blood is apparently dark enough and connected enough with Emma that her blood can help change happy endings? Or do you think that's going to backfire?
You know, magic babble.
Blood magic.
I mean, fine, make it as complicated as you want, but you could introduce some of the concepts before the episode in which they're used, and I might buy it a little bit more. Like, well, yeah, you know, every time they shouldn't talk about ink. Like, I would almost be happier if they said, you know, you just write with basic squid ink. So no, the ink has to be charged with dark savior blood, or actually kind of just the potential for darkness, or you know, charged with darkness somehow. Just and it's not as much as you might think. It's just a few drops, but it does dry up pretty fast, so you better write something. All those concepts were new in the statements where they were needed this episode. And frankly, there again, I don't like the direction. Dark savior blood required for this. You know, maybe just have fairy tales and leave some of the twisted theological references out. That's my preference.
And it does seem like they're shortcutting some of the things that they've said before about how it has to be Emma's magic or her blood because she was the bringer of the happy endings or the writer of the happy endings in this world. Now they're circumventing that somehow, but that might be somehow related to this connection that Emma and Lily have, because all of they said, they get so technical on these things sometimes, it's ridiculous, but the ink had to be from the potential for darkness. It's like extract of potential for darkness. And that was all cast into Lily, and so they can get that from Lily, but still it doesn't jive quite with Emma being the person who wrote the happy endings, unless you consider that potential from darkness was extracted from the Savior. So it's like extract of potential for darkness from extract of Savior.
From extract of llama.
Yes. And it's getting a little messy.
Well, and they can't decide if they're talking about, I don't know, smuggled goods or cargo containers that could hold smuggled goods. If I may make the analogy, is it the potential for darkness or is it darkness? What is in Lily? It's driving me crazy.
Well, she seems to be all bent on revenge, and that seems to be, at least until the very end of this episode, she seems to be completely set on getting that revenge.
Or, you know, burning herself.
I wonder, how many villains are we going to have in this finale?
It's getting to be epic numbers, and then they switch back to Zelena. I was like, oh, you. I thought the author was just going to write her out after all. Just go, nah, I liked the idea.
Yeah. All right, she's still around.
But honestly, the ramifications, the things that should change because of her absence, I'm glad they didn't even try, because that would be a disaster. Talk about opening up plot holes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so
we had a whole half season with her. Those things, if they didn't happen, there's a whole different show we should be watching, I think.
But it does make me wonder, what about the baby?
The baby.
If the baby is real.
I think Regina, if the baby, yeah, well, see, that's where it's a good thing Regina just stopped, because I don't know, she's been a little bit villain-like the last couple episodes in her pursuit of having a happy ending and still not being a villain. Mm-hmm. Belle's heart was way borderline. This was probably beyond borderline, so I'm glad she decided not to do it.
I can see that maybe while she and Robin were in that bar, which I'm pretty sure is the same bar where Emma and Neil talked back in the episode Manhattan. But I think that while they were in there, that's where they came up with this plan of, hey, let's help Xena. Hey, let's let's help Zelina realize that she can't win, that this isn't something she can control, and let's cast her out or cast her somewhere, but let's steal her child? Is that what they're planning to do?
No, I think the whole thing is a little bit contrived anyway, because it's sort of like, well, I mean, these strange and different sorts of things actually do happen in the real world, just because Zelina, through being tricksy and false, has a baby with Robin, doesn't mean that he's not going to be with Regina. I mean, why is this such a thing that they're resting on? Like, he's actually going to go be with Zelina because of the baby. Really? No, it's not. That's not how that works. And if Zelina is crazy and unfit as a mother, she's not keeping the child anyway. So, like, what is the big deal?
Yeah, I really would doubt
She's crazy.
Zelina actually wants to be a mother.
Right.
She, I think, just wants the baby as a revenge tactic. And here, it sounds like Robin and Regina have basically disarmed her in some way. I mean, from their description of sending her somewhere very far, far away, either a different galaxy, like Star Wars reference, or something like sending her to another realm somehow. Although they can't quite travel to different realms yet.
Or maybe just the dungeon. That was the best moment of the whole show. Oh, he's here. It was so dramatic. Who knew there was a burning dungeon under her castle?
Yeah.
It was so matter of fact. She just sort of waves her head, and of course, like, really?
And that is the other point of showing us these flashbacks, is to show us Regina's conflict with finding the one, which ended up not being truly the one. It's just, the drunk sheriff that hits on old ladies.
Right. He's not anyone's one. He's the biggest creep that I think the show's ever had, possibly.
Yeah. He basically hits on every woman he sees. I think that we're getting to see a little bit of a flip perspective of what we've seen previously with Once Upon a Time, where Emma was the child that was ripped from Snow and Charming, so they didn't get to raise her and have all of those parenting moments with her. And now we're seeing it, instead of from the hero perspective, from the villain perspective, with Maleficent having her child back, but never having gotten to raise her as a child. It's that sort of parallel, and I'm seeing more and more parallels that are pointing us, I think, in this direction of heroes and villains being what the season 5 theme might be.
Well, they almost make it like they're starting another show.
Yeah. And the TV show Heroes did that actually once, where at the end of one of the seasons, it showed one of the villains again, and then it led into what the next season's theme would be. Instead of being heroes, the next season's theme was going to be villains, even though the show was still called Heroes.
So, okay, this whole blood and ink thing, it only requires this darkness, whatever, to write happy villains. that's the name of the next spinoff. To write happy endings for villains, as though that's a rule that the author cannot overcome without some kind of trickery. He can't write a happy ending for a villain. It's just not allowed. Because I'm assuming it isn't always the case that the ink that writes all the stories is made this way.
I don't think it's something like that. I think it's because of Emma being the bringer of happy endings in this world. And so thus the author has no power because she's the one that brought the happy endings, not the author like in the other worlds.
I see her as part of the story.
Right.
She is a character in the story. Like,
she's both a character and sort of the creator or a creator of the story or bringer of happy endings.
Sure. Okay. Which somebody wrote, apparently.
Yeah. And speaking
or
of
recorded. That's an important distinction. Hey, you move on too fast, buddy.
You talk too slow, buddy. And speaking of writing happy endings, did you know there's a way that you could learn how to write happy endings or create happy endings with movies and audio production and other cool things, or maybe find your happy ending by learning a great new skill to help you in your personal or professional life or even just your hobbies? It is lynda.com/once. That's lynda.com/once. This is where you can go to learn from tens of thousands of great courses, hundreds of thousands of hours of excellent content presented very well to teach you the things that you want to learn. You want to learn video production, business skills, accounting skills, web design, programming. You want to make your own mobile app or something like that. You can have the Happy Endings app where you just press a button and it gives someone their happy ending. You could do that. You can learn how to do that. Go to lynda.com/once to sign up for a free 10-day trial. Check it out. I think you'll be amazed at the quality of these tutorials. This is so much better than you could get anywhere else on the internet, just browsing, trying to find part one or trying to find someone who knows at all what they're talking about or keeps the tutorial up to date because, software changes, new versions and stuff. So go check it out at lynda.com/once for a free 10-day trial. Check it out. Try it out for free. You have nothing to lose, but I really think that you're going to like it. That's lynda.com/once. And for everyone who signs up, it does help support the podcast. So if you're just sitting there thinking, I don't want to sign up, I'll just sign up some other day because it doesn't really matter if I sign up. No, it does matter if you sign up. When you sign up, it helps support us. And I think you're going to be amazed by what you can learn too. It will help support you. So check it out at lynda.com/once. And thank you, lynda.com, for your support. I'm excited about where this is going. I know we've got a lot more to discuss with this episode, and we'd love your feedback. I'll tell you more about how you can send your feedback in a moment. But I really felt like, besides the end of this episode, I really felt like this episode was just moving the story on a little bit more. And then the cliffhanger, or that thing to get us excited, was that moment seeing a different book. And here's what I wonder. Is that other book that Isaac is starting to write the book that he mentioned to Regina that he was once thinking of writing, and that's where that page came from? So is that page of Robin and Regina kissing from this book somehow before he wrote it, or like this is what he would have written in that book?
I don't think I understand it being a separate book. Is it book 2? Is it an alternate universe? Does the alternate universe / story superimpose itself on top of the original? Or if we see these things happen in a very simplified string theory way, does the original story still exist? And those people, do they still exist with their original endings? Only now we're watching the alternates with their messed up endings.
Yeah. And if anything changes, will they know that it changed? Or will they just suddenly be in this new environment where...
Or because they're different, has that always been their reality?
Yeah, right. I could see it being fun either way. I mean, I feel like they've already done this thing where nobody remembers who they are. And so I kind of don't want to see them do that all over again.
I hope Regina appears and burns the book before he even writes another sentence.
That could be.
And then takes Rumple's
downer.
heart. And then kind of laughs. So that's another thing, another concept that has never been a thing before, which now apparently is, Rumpelstiltskin can die, but not the Dark One.
Right. Well, we
Okay.
kind of saw that before when Rumple was poisoned from Hook's hook. Remember, he was dying, but Cora back then had said stuff about, if we don't catch him before he dies, then the Dark One power dies with him.
Evaporates.
Yeah,
Yes.
evaporates. But she didn't really fully understand the Dark One existence, so she could have easily been misspeaking on that point.
It was the ink.
But what happens to Rumple when Rumple dies, but the Dark One continues? Does the Dark One thing, is it like the mantle of the author that it just passes on to some other person, whoever's standing nearby? Oh, imagine the author as the Dark One. That would be horrible. He can change. He has all magical power, and he can change things. It's like that evil guy in the DuckTales movie getting that gem and sticking it on top of the lamp and getting unlimited wishes. Yes, I know that's very, very niche.
And old. Yeah, well, I can see that happening, although it's not what was indicated tonight, but I can still see it happening.
All during this episode, I was thinking Rumple's going to die. Definitely, he's going to die. And we have a poll on our forums where people are voting to say whether they think he's going to die, whether he'll die but be reborn somehow, or whether he will just continue on living. In this whole episode, I was thinking, yeah, he's going to die. Until the very end. And it's like, oh, well, okay, maybe not. Apparently, the author is on his side. Since the author went back to Rumple to help him.
Well, Rumple was the one who could give him protection or what? Entertainment? Power?
Yeah.
Regina didn't want him to do anything.
True. So he must have felt like, forget this. I'm not going to help you, even though you were protecting me. I'd rather go with someone who actually wants my help, who appreciates me as an author.
Oh, I want to manipulate.
And we would appreciate you as an author if you would send us your feedback about this episode. Email it to feedback@oncepodcast.com and put in the subject line Mother, the name of this episode. And you can also call and leave your voicemail feedback at 903-231-2221 or send a voice message through the website at oncepodcast.com. Please remember to subscribe to the podcast in iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, Pocket Cast, Instacast, Upcast, Downcast, everywhere, Castcast, wherever you can find podcasts. Subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss a single episode. And we hope to see you at our finale party in Cincinnati, Ohio, or just outside of Cincinnati, Ohio. We're going to have a lot of fun. I'm really, really excited about this too.
And it's not just a party.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like the weekend if you can make it.
Yeah, we'll start with dinner at a nearby restaurant. Then we'll go back to this room that we have reserved to watch the finale on a nice big screen TV. And then we'll record the podcast there in the room. So we'll have a microphone for you where you can come up and be part of the podcast to let us know your initial reactions to the podcast right there. So you can let us know your initial reactions to the show right there as we're recording the podcast. And then we'll have the response from Hunter, Jacqueline, Aaron, Jeremy, and myself in our upcoming full discussion after that. But we've got to first dig more into this episode, and we'd love your feedback for that. So all that feedback and contact information is at oncepodcast.com. Please comment. Please share this episode with everyone you know by going to oncepodcast.com/197 and connect with us on Twitter at oncepodcast. And I'm Daniel J. Lewis on Twitter at the Ramen Noodle.
I'm Jeremy Laughlin on Twitter at Phlegon. That's PHLEGON.
And join us for the finale party, support the podcast, all of that cool stuff at oncepodcast.com. And until next time, I'm not weak. And thanks for listening. Once Podcast is a proud member of Noodle.mx Network. Find more of our award-winning and award-nominated podcasts to make you think, laugh, and succeed at Noodle.mx. Big thanks to our sponsors for this episode of the podcast. If you'd like to be one of them, then please go to oncepodcast.com/sponsor. Also check out lynda.com/once to learn something awesome.